Hey, welcome to another episode of Hard to Guard TV. I have somebody who I actually never met, but I actually look up to. I see her grind on the gram. I see her grind. She just pops up on YouTube sometimes. Sometimes she even pops up on the news. She's a CEO. She's a founder of Wall Ball. She has 4 businesses, and she's turned those 4 business 5. My fault. 5. The culture pivot is number 5. Correct?
Oh, actually, I just opened up a second daycare in Brooklyn, so that turned out to be number 5.
See, I'm breaking news. So she's doing her thing, and her name is Jasmine Ray. And Jasmine, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
How you feeling? I know you told me you're tired.
A little tired, yeah, from commuting and bouncing from Brooklyn to Staten Island. So all good though.
So I want to start it off real quick. So you started your business about 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah, 2020. 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
You started your business, and your first business was Wall Ball, correct?
It was actually Wall Ball World LLC.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to make money with the LLC, and people were like, "You don't need an LLC, you need a nonprofit." Mm-hmm. So my second company was the 501c3 United States Wall Ball Association.
So you started it because of the unfortunate passing of your brother.
Yep.
And you turned it into a business. I know you did it just to maintain his memory, mm-hmm. and to give back. What made you say, you know what? I think I have something. I want to continue this.
You know what? I didn't do it with the intention of having a business. Like you said, I did it to sort of memorialize my brother. But when I saw the crowd of people that actually took handball serious and, took the competition really serious. And I just remember not doing a lot of promotion, but so many people showed up. And that's when I was like, why isn't anybody, making handball professional? Where's all the professional tournaments? Why isn't anybody taking this serious? And then what I come to learn is people take handball very serious, but there was nobody with business acumen, creating the environment for the sport to grow. So not taking away from anybody that has done this before me, because they obviously laid the foundation for what it is that I do. But there have been groups around since the 80s having handball tournaments. But what I did was the first tournament was for my brother. Second tournament was just people asking me to have another tournament. So I had a second one, same thing, for free. I raised the money. And then I just kept looking around and I'm like, wait, there's people that would pay to have kids off the street and playing handball. I already saw the vision. So I started asking around. I started asking politicians. I started asking foundations, would you pay for this? But then they were like, yeah, but you need a 501c3. That's when I was like, okay, so this LLC, nobody's going to give me money. So I applied for a tax exempt organization. I was approved a year later. So it took me 1 year to get the 501c3. And then I just went to work. I rolled up my sleeves. I started fundraising. So I got funded by the city council. I get funded by 10 foundations per year. We get grant money. We get, government funding. And then what wound up happening is as we started to grow the 501c3, then Red Bull came in and was like, hey, do you do professional tournaments? And I was like, I have an LLC. So I was like, wait, I'm not going to, make a deal with Red Bull under my 501c3 because that's a nonprofit. But I have this LLC where I could make a profit and any excess cash I could pocket. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do professional tournaments. And so, we started Red Bull Slaps. And that was for 18 and older, because Red Bull's a caffeinated beverage. You can't promote, or you can't have any kids 17 and under participating in events. So this was, 18 to 30, the best of the best in New York City. And my first tournament, 245 players showed up. They actually crashed my website. 245 players signed up in 11 minutes. Then the following year, 245 people signed up in 14 minutes. Same thing, crashed my website. So there's a huge demand for handball to be professional, but it became very taxing on me. And it was a little hard to deal with the community because there's such a, there was a culture that existed, but way before I was there. So, there was a culture of gambling, a culture of drinking, a culture of like, you know, and a lot of people, to a lot of people, I wasn't very welcome because it was like, you know, who is this girl creating rules? This is our sport. We were playing it first. Who do you think you are? And then it was, whoa, she's making a lot of money and we're the athletes busting our ass. So the community was very split. Half of them were very supportive and were like, yo, this girl knows what she's doing. You know, my cash, I had cash prizes, $10,000, you know, for winners. So half of the community was very supportive. It was like, yo, let's support this girl. She knows what she's doing and she's getting us money. The other half was like, yeah, but she's making too much money off of this and we were here before her. So it was very taxing on me. And then so I started shifting my focus back to the kids. And then I started building up the 501c3. And then that started surpassing the LLC. So I was kind of doing this ping pong thing between both companies. But, you know, it gave me opportunities to travel the world. I found out that there's people in 35 different countries that play handball professionally. They play in Argentina. They play in Spain, Italy, France, Ireland. You can't forget Ireland. So all over the place. Colombia. I've been to Colombia. I've been to Italy. I've been to China, all over the world to promote handball and do professional handball tournaments. So super grateful for the opportunity. But that's the story with wall ball. It really started off as a memorial for my brother, and then it turned into a full-blown business. And I still have both of them to this day, 10 years later. I'm still funded by Red Bull 10 years later, and I'm still funded by the City Council of New York. I'm funded by the Staten Island Foundation, by the Richmond County Savings Foundation. I'm funded by a bunch of foundations. So 10 years later, we're still in business.
So, you know, you're moving around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and during that, obviously building the, you know, the kids division, the adults division. Did you have help? Like, did you build a staff, or were you like a one woman army?
So for the first 3 years, I was definitely one woman army. And I pride myself in saying that because there wasn't any aspect of the organization that I didn't build myself. Because one, I didn't even have the budget to hire anybody. You know, when my brother passed away, I just went into this like deep depression, and wall ball was something that helped me to get out of it. So I was very consumed by it. So anything that the organization needed, I was hands-on. I built my first website. I started my first social media pages. I fundraised. I created my own flyers. I did my own outreach. And what I did was when I had tournaments, I went out to the community and I went to like the old school guys and I was like, listen, I'm having a tournament. I don't really know the rules. Can I hire you to have the handball tournament with me? So I would partner with the old school guys who already had a reputation, and I would hire them to sort of help me, you know, execute the tournament. As time went on, and probably 4 years in was when I hired like my first assistant. Actually, what am I saying? She's still with me to this day. I hired one of the kids that used to play in my tournaments. I said there was this girl, her name is Maybelline, who was just really focused, and I loved like her drive, and she was like really mature for her age. She was 17. Today she's 23, and she's still with me to this day. But not only does she work with me still in wall ball, but she also works with me in my daycares. So I did that for a couple of years. Come in. Sorry. Okay. And then I hired then I had to have a bookkeeper because that, you know, we started earning a lot of money. So, and then I hired CPAs, and then I had to have lawyers, and then I had to have a chief operating officer. So now I have somebody that helps me throw the tournaments. I don't have to be on site anymore. And then I hired a grant writer. So now I don't file for the grants anymore. I have somebody that does that for me. We have meetings 4 times a year. She continuously submits grants applications on our behalf. So now it's a full-blown operation. I'm not as hands-on as obviously, you know, I have an IT guy, I have an outreach person, so I don't have to do all that stuff anymore. But for the first 3 years, it was just me hands-on.
So the good thing, like you said, like you got the street cred by going to the older people in different neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize how important that is, that you just like, you pretty much knocked on somebody, you know, went to somebody, hey, I'm doing this. How inviting was that to see, like, you know, people in the community like, oh, I love what you're doing. And then they actually had your back in different communities, because you're from Staten Island, but you started doing it all in different boroughs.
Yeah, it took me a while to even have a tournament in Staten Island because, handball was more popular in the Bronx and Brooklyn, even in Queens and Manhattan. I really didn't know, even though I grew up in Staten Island, I didn't know the population of players in Staten Island. I didn't know there was many as there are. But a lot of the boroughs were very supportive. I got a lot of pushback from the Bronx. The Bronx was like, who do you think you are? And, oh, you're making all this money. You need to hit the players off, things like that. But, you know, because I was so consistent and I stuck in there, I think over time, like I won over their loyalty. People saw that I'm not a pushover.
They saw the give back.
Yeah, I was trying to give back. I was trying to elevate the game, but I was also trying to provide opportunities for them. And throughout the years, I wound up getting some people signed. I got some people contracts. I made some people money. A lot of people got opportunities to fly to different countries because of what we were doing. So I definitely provided a platform for the sport to grow, for people to grow. And everybody, I think year round, everybody benefited from the work that we were doing. And like I said, eventually people tried me. I grew up in martial arts. I'm a 4th degree black belt, right? So I'm not a pushover.
I did my research. You're a
so,
you kick ass and you can sing too. So
oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I used to be a singer. I have like 10 lives, but yeah, people tried me, and once they saw like I wasn't really going anywhere and I had good intentions, over time people started coming around and saying, she's not that bad. There were a lot of people who were like dead against the organization that today they work with me. Like I hire them for my tournaments. They run my tournaments. We have great relationships. I trust them. But that trust didn't start building until like 5-6 years in, when they were like, you know what? She's not that bad, or she's really doing what she has to do and she's giving us opportunities. We need to give her a shot. So there's still a lot of controversy around, wall ball and the approach that I took, because I was very strict with the rules. I was very stern in saying like what I want in my tournaments, and I don't want cursing. I want to see camaraderie and sportsmanship, and a lot of people weren't ready for that. Handball's very grungy, and people you don't agree with a shot, they want to fight on the court, they curse each other out. Like I don't stand for that stuff. So imagine telling a grown man how to act. It was like, he's going to tell you how he feels. And I got a lot of that in the beginning. But what started to happen is, as I kept implementing the rules and being stern on enforcing the rules, people that typically wouldn't play in tournaments started playing. And I had people from Queens coming and then Staten Island coming, and they were telling me, you know what? We feel safe at your tournament because we feel like if, we don't agree with a shot, we're not going to get punched in the face. So it became like a safe haven. And then I went from having, 50 players to having 150 players. And that's because people were coming out the woodwork saying, I love these tournaments and I'm safe and I don't have to argue and I don't have to defend myself. And, she has a good staff and I enforce the rules and I make sure that everybody has a good time across the board. And then we do other things, like we provide lunch and free beverages. We always give t-shirts. Everything is free. Like I never charge for anything. And that's one of the things that I'm like super proud of. People have street tournaments all the time, but they'll charge the players $25, $50, $40 to play. I never charged anything ever to adults or kids. Never.
Sign up is free. Everything pretty much funded. Red Bull, you have a yearly contract with Red Bull.
Yep.
To run a one-day tournament, it's a weekend tournament, one-day tournament.
One day.
Typically, how much is your overhead on that? On something like that?
It depends, right? Because this is the beauty about having a nonprofit organization, is when you go through your nonprofit or your 501c3, because it's considered a charitable organization, the city doesn't really hit you over the head with fees because they're like, okay, you're not really making money, fine. But what the city looks for is how much branding are you going to start putting up all over the place? Are you going to brand the gates? Are you going to have sandwich boards? Are you going to have posters and flyers and stuff like that? Once they see marketing, the city says, okay, you can't take advantage of our public parks. You have to pay for that stuff. So what they do is they charge you per square foot. So anytime you want to put up a banner, they charge, like $20 or $200 for a poster. So when I would have sponsored tournaments, like a Rebel tournament, I was spending, honestly, it's funny, I don't tell people this a lot, but my permits every year for Rebel tournaments are $6,700. But for a kids tournament, like Prince and Princess of the Courts, my permits are $300. So, and then, sometimes the city says, you have to have this type of liability policy, right? We can't have people getting hurt in our parks when your tournaments and you're not having some type of backup. So sometimes I have to have an extensive policy. So it really depends. But the most I've ever spent in a tournament was $27,000. That I'll never forget. One time I spent 27 grand. What I did was I rented out Lehman College. I rented out Lehman College the basketball courts, and I built an indoor handball wall. And then I turned it into like a little stadium. So I spent 27 grand on that.
Would you do that again?
Yes, I would, but I would do it a lot differently. Because I did a lot of promotion to the existing community, and I think I missed the mark in not promoting it to people who had no idea about handball, which is what I should have done. I should have incorporated, looking back, I should have had entertainment. I should have had a halftime show. I should have had local artists perform, and I should have turned it into like a concert/sporting event. Well, looking back, I'm like, you know what? I know how to do this going forward. But those are the mistakes that you made as an entrepreneur,
So growing up, were you always had this entrepreneur spirit?
Kind of, sort of. You know what? I am very much like an introvert. But I do remember like selling my Barbies, outside at this. Yeah, like I used to have yard sales and I used to sell my Barbies for 25 cents a Barbie. I used to do things like that, but no, outside of that, I was very much an introvert. Even throughout school, I wasn't like very talkative or anything like that. I can talk when I need to talk, right? But other than that, like, I won't strike up a conversation with people in the street. I'm very shy, quiet.
Not no more. Still?
No, still, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I talk when I need to, but I would never, like I said, I would never strike up a conversation. I'm very shy, so.
So now, the business is booming after a few, 5-6 years. It's starting to run on its own.
Yeah, I started really making money like my 4th year was like my first big check.
So now you decide to venture to something else, which is the daycare center, I think, right?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky in this sense. My great grandfather, he started a daycare in 1968 in Bed-Stuy, and it was actually closing. And the board of directors contacted me and they asked me if I would be willing to take it over. And I was like, I don't know anything about daycare. Like, I don't want to take this on. And they were like, look, this is your family's legacy. And, I never met my great grandfather. He passed away 3 years before I was born. So I never actually met him, but I know all about him. He's huge in Brooklyn. He's, he was a civil rights activist. He had a Cornerstone Baptist church. He rebuilt the church. Lewis Avenue that goes right in the heart of Bed-Stuy is actually co-named Dr. Sandy Ray Boulevard. So my great grandfather was a big deal in Brooklyn. And, once they told me, I felt the responsibility to sort of like try to keep it alive. And because I had so much experience with Wall Ball and the nonprofit organization, the daycare is a nonprofit organization. I said, you know what? I told them, you got me for a year. I'll get it back on its feet, but then that's it. The thing about being an entrepreneur is that 99% of your job is problem solving. That's all it is. You can kind of go from industry to industry, but if you understand problem solving, people skills, if you understand operations, negotiation, you're good. So I knew the politicians already from fundraising, and I knew how to work a nonprofit. So I rolled up my sleeves, and for a year I worked on the center, and it didn't close. And every single year they gave me a new contract until they were just like, you know what, take it, it's yours. So I've been there 4 years now. And when I first got it, their budget was like $367,000. And in 2 years, I got it all the way up to over $800,000. And then I actually just got, so yeah, this is kind of breaking, but in August, I got notification because I wanted to grow it. I was like, freaking, I already mastered it. I understand it. And there's so much money in daycare. I was like, I wonder if I could grow it. So last year, I started applying for like another building. I found another building. I was like, well, I want that building, this building, but I need a budget. So I started going to I went to DOE and I was like, what does it take to open up another daycare center? And last year I went crazy putting in applications, giving presentations. And in August, a couple of weeks ago, I was told that I got my second daycare center, 3 times bigger than the daycare center I have now, and 3 times the budget. So I went from having, almost a $300,000 budget to now 2.6 million
in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, yeah.
So now, you build the staff. It's like that whole process. How long is that whole process before the whole the second one is up and running?
It's gonna take me about 6 months. So I'll probably have it up and running by like mid next year. I'm gonna really start because the building is already a daycare center. But I have to start from scratch. It's not like I'm inheriting something like I did before. I have to start putting, I use Indeed.com and I put out applications and then I start the vetting process. We start interviewing, checking for qualifications, but I have to build out everything. I have to build out IT, teaching staff, education staff. I had the facility staff, cooking staff.
So this is a little bit different. You haven't done this part before.
No, you know what? Honestly, when I came to Cornerstone, they had 21 employees. I fired 11 right away. I did my interview process and I was like, you guys got to go. So I fired almost everybody except for like a few teachers. I kept them and then I had to start from scratch. So I hired a new cook. I hired a new IT. I hired a new facilities manager. And I hired a new educational director. I hired a new assistant director. I hired a new bookkeeper. So yeah, I had to learn the process from scratch because the reason it was failing was because they were out of compliance. And they were out of compliance because they were misappropriating the budget. So sometimes, and it's crazy because, they were educators. They were all doctors with PhDs, and when I came in, they were like, oh, you're going to fail. You don't know anything about this. And I was just like, but when I took a look at what they were doing, I was like, wait a minute, you're paying this one what? And this one, they didn't understand budget, and they were too top heavy and they weren't spending the money where it needs to be. And that was a lesson I learned in World War II is, when you have a company, people usually get their first check and they're like, yes, I made it, I'm good. But what you're really supposed to do is get your first check and reinvest, put every dollar back in, grow it to the next level, then make that check, put every dollar back in, grow it to the next level. And like, if you have like the patience and discipline to do something like that, that's when you keep growing. And that's where people miss the mark is they get comfortable too fast. But that's what I do with the daycare. I made sure that the top wasn't too heavy. I made sure that we had quality teachers. And then all of a sudden we went from like 23 kids to 50 kids to 62 kids. Now, technically I have 67 and 50. So whatever that number is, 107 or 17, something like that. So 200. I'm sorry, wait, 217 now. So yeah, and it went from closing to over almost a $3 million budget now. So
the one thing I could tell is you've mastered people building. And
that was hard.
Yeah, so I was gonna say for you, and like you said, you're an introvert. Like, how did you come out your shell just dealing with people? Because you have to deal with people pretty much every single day, and parents, and wallboard people, and people in the street. So
you know what? I am an introvert, but I'm also very like I get the job done. No matter what. I'm not into being shy when it comes to getting something done. So if I have to get something done, I'm going to get it done. And no, I wasn't shy about firing anybody. I took like 2 people to lunch and I said, you're fired at lunch to their face. I don't shy away from things at all. I guess the same thing, like in martial arts, you really learn how to how to face your fears, how to face problems. You know, you learn a certain level of discipline. You learn not to take things personal. And you learn to sort of detach your feelings from what it is that you need to do, from getting the job done. So, you know, I know how to get things done when I have to. And you know, I just fired 2 people. I fired somebody this week and I fired somebody last week. And that was really, really hard. And I actually fired people that I cared about. But, you know, that doesn't mean that they were good at their job. And at the end of the day, I do what I have to do for my businesses. I always tell my assistant, it's a joke with us, but I said, I'll fire my family if I have to. You know, I'll fire my brother, my mother. I don't care who it is. But if I feel like you're not a good asset to the organization, then you don't need to be here. And that's just how it is. I still love you. We can still be friends. I keep in touch with you, but you're not good for business.
So then now, earlier this year, obviously with quarantine, I saw that you changed up and now you started a new company called the Culture Pivot, where you want to pretty much give people everything that you've learned in a major platform, in your platform. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, 10 years of bumping my head, you know, over and over. And I see so many people with so many good ideas, you know, people aspiring entrepreneurs, but sometimes I look at how they're doing it and their approach, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be a long road for them. So, you know, one thing that I actually have naturally come to love is giving, like, especially young girls guidance. You know, some girls will come to me, how did you do it? And I have found that, like, I have a passion for it. And I really have never really found my passion, because even in singing, I love to sing, but I was never passionate about entertainment. I love karate, but I was never really, you know, once I broke my nose and I broke my thumb, I was just like, like, I don't want to keep breaking bones. I wasn't really passionate about it. You know, daycare, you know, I'm great at it, but am I passionate? I'm passionate about business. And, you know, when young girls started coming to me and saying, you know, I need your help, I found passion, and I would give them my time, you know, 2 hours, 3 hours, sitting there like, okay, this is what you have to do. I need you to do this. And I will follow up with them. Did you do it? And this is the books that you need to read. And this is how you need to conduct yourself. This is how you need to carry yourself. These are the people that you should have around you. And I found myself passionate about giving advice and giving guidance. Because one, I didn't have a lot of that when I started my businesses, and I wish I did. But then the guidance that I did have, you know, I'm grateful for, but it came from, you know, I don't mean to sound like derogatory or anything, but like my first mentor was my college professor, and he was like 76, and, you know, Irish man, you know, but he saw something in me. He was like, you got it, kid. You got something. And he's like, so, and I'm horrible at school. I was a horrible test taker, but he took me aside. He never let me, you know, I was in his business course. I was in like business 4. I was in like the top business course in college of Staten Island. But I was horrible at school, and I was a horrible test taker. So anytime the class was taking a test, I actually was taking a completely different test. I never took the test that the class had to take, because he knew I was going to fail it. So what he did was he made me study like Vince Lombardi. He made me study Steve Jobs and Gandhi, and he made me study, you know, Phil Knight and people that were entrepreneurs. And he was very big on molding me, right? So he realized that I wasn't good at school, but I was great at business. So he molded me. And then my second mentor was my Jewish, you know, attorney, and he's 86, you know, so I never had guidance from anybody that looked like me. I never had guidance from you know, a Black or Latino, from a woman. It was always an older white man that was like, you know what, you got it, kid. And I want to invest in you. I want to help you. And one of the, you know, chances that somebody gave me, my attorney, in getting my 501c3 off the ground, I didn't have the money for it. And he was like, I see what you're doing. And he said, and I grew up in New York. You know, I used to play baseball. I played tennis. I see what you're doing. So he said, I'm going to do this for you. And when you have the money, just pay me back. And the guy didn't even know me, but he knew I had integrity. And I'm telling you, like, as soon as I had the money, I ran back and I was like, here's the money for the 501c3. And 10 years later, he's still my attorney to this day. And he loves me, and he calls me, hey, kid, you need anything? You need help? And those are the type of people I have in my corner. But I was missing people that look like me. So it was big. It's a big deal for me to sort of help guide people in our culture. Because I don't want to see anybody misguided. I don't want to see people, lose money the way that I did. Um, so anytime anybody needs any type of guidance, like I pride myself on being there for people. And that's really, part of what the culture pivot is about. It's about providing, educational opportunities, learning opportunities, tools and resources and things that, that I didn't necessarily have when I started.
I would say the good thing is like with businesses and entrepreneurship, it's actually a good thing that when we do lose money, because it helps
Oh
us.
yeah, it's the best teacher.
It is the best teacher, and sometimes people don't realize that.
Mhm.
And like for you, the entrepreneur spirit. What does the entrepreneur spirit mean for you?
You know what? For me, entrepreneur spirit, it means like having a vision. It means that's deep. Entrepreneur spirit. It means being relentless. Having tenacity. Having integrity. I pride myself as an entrepreneur. I pride myself on the mistakes that I made, but I also pride myself on the fact that I did it by myself. And I'm not saying I did it by myself, because obviously I had a lot of people along the way that lifted me up. But I didn't really come from anything. Nobody gave me money to start, nobody gave me guidance to start. Honestly, people were telling me that I can't do it. So the entrepreneur spirit is like being relentless and having tenacity and pushing through and pushing through. It's constantly, like I said, problem solving, but it's also having the courage, um and the passion to keep pushing forward. And anytime I feel like things are getting too hard, I think about my brother, and I'm like, nah, like I'm really doing this for him. So like nothing, I'm telling you, like there's nothing that somebody could put in front of me as a barrier, and I'm not gonna break through it. Nothing. There's nothing.
So with the culture pivot, how can people get involved? How do they come to you? Is there a subscription? Is there, what are you teaching? Run it
So
down.
no, I'm so happy you're asking this. Okay, so I spent, while COVID was happening and all this craziness was going on, I locked myself in my office and I wrote a course. I wrote a business course called the Hard Knock Entrepreneurship. And it's like 5 chapters. It's like 3 hours long. I literally wrote down everything. I wrote it myself. I wrote down all the lessons that I learned along the way, as much as I could. I wrote down the tactics that I used to start my business without having a bunch of money. I teach everything from how to build your organization from the ground up, how to use online as a tool instead of hiring a staff on site, hiring people through the internet. Um, and I built a course, so it's gonna be launched October 12th. So in 2-3 weeks,
Yeah.
it'll be on the Culture Pivot. It's expensive. It's what is it? It's $500. It's like 400 and something dollars. But I honestly there's a lot of people out there that say, there's a lot of those stupid courses out there that are like, let me teach you how to do that. But I'm always like, well, where the hell are you? Like, I'm in Brooklyn. Like, where's your business? Where are you located? What are your credentials? So it's like anybody has access to me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give you my resources. And $500 for 10 years of knowledge is a bargain, because I guarantee you, if you start your business without a roadmap, you're going to burn through $5,000 just making the wrong choices. So if you spend money on a course that'll help you get a more narrow focus on what it is that you want to do, you're going to save 10 times that by watching a course like the one that I created. So the course launches October 12th. It's a 3-hour business course, chapters on everything that I learned in business. I'm also going to show you how to write your business plan. I have templates for it. I have instructions for it. I'm going to tell you how to hire people online, what websites to go to, how to incorporate, what type of business you should incorporate, how to build your organization. everything from the ground up. I'm gonna guide you. So that's where we're at today. Is I'm gonna launch my business course.
How long's the course?
It's 3 hours.
Oh, so that's 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 3 hour course. It's like 24 chapters, something like that. So you probably get through it in like a month if you watch a couple of chapters here and there. You get through it in about a month, maybe a little less. And then I'm probably gonna start like a some type of like forum online where people can always ask me questions and live, and I'll be available to answer questions or consult with people. So right now that's what we're doing on the Culture Pivot. We're also, there's like a health side to the Culture Pivot, because I'm very big on, yeah, earning money is great, but if you're not around to enjoy the money, it doesn't make any sense. But also there's a component of trying to be sane and while you're building your business, right? And that also means taking care of yourself and getting proper sleep and having the right diet and making sure that you're like hydrated. I have a bottle of water with me everywhere I go. I'm always drinking water. Because you'd be surprised how dehydrated people are these days. So there's a health side to it where we sell products. We sell sea moss, we sell teas, things that I personally believe in. Products that we build from home. Nothing is outsourced. We do everything from home, from the teas to the sea moss, things like that. So there's a whole store online, and then eventually we're going to start promoting other people's products too. We're going to be promoting other Black and Latino entrepreneurs and their products and their businesses. But first, we're going to just try to get my course off the ground. And then we're probably going to use the funding from that to reinvest and then have more courses and then build it out and promote other people.
Nice. So, okay. So now you've turned, how's it feel to be, you're still young, to
not that young, but young. Yeah.
You're young to build $1 million company. Like your company, all your companies combined have gross over $1 million. So how's that feel like for you? Like 10 years ago, did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like knew, I always said like, okay, this is what I want at this point in time. And like, I really busted my ass. Like I'm not even going to take that away from myself and be like, oh, I didn't know. Nah, I knew. I worked for it. I knew exactly what I was going for, and I'm not done yet. So, I'm still going to grow the daycare. I'm still going to grow Wallball. I have a whole other thing launching this year for Wallball that's going to be amazing in 2021. So, yeah.
I was say, the crazy thing about Wallball, which is kind of crazy, is like it's actually a perfect sport for COVID because you're not, it's not like football. It's not like
switching it up though. Believe it or not, it's gonna be even better for COVID. We're switching it up. We're gonna come out with a whole new game for so that to sort of work with the whole social distancing thing. We're launching it in April.
In 10 years of running your business, what has been your biggest pitfall that you overcame?
Biggest pitfall. I don't know. What did I do that I really, really regret? You know what? You know what? There were so many things that happened. I hired friends that I thought were going to help me, and I wound up having to fire them. And then when I fired them, it's like, oh, I'm not your friend. And I'm like, where? I thought we were friends. Like things like that were a big deal to me. Like, damn, like I thought this person was for me, but they just kind of wanted the clout and they wanted to be like, yeah, I'm Wallball, but they didn't really want to put the work in. So it's tough thinking that people have your back and then they don't have your back. I mean, I was like embarrassed a lot. Like I didn't know a lot. That's why I said like with this course, I'm trying to put you on to like things that I didn't know about, building your board of directors, things like terminology that I guess I should have known. And then I would be in a boardroom full of people who give me an opportunity. And sometimes things would come out of my mouth that I didn't know what I was talking about. And I got embarrassed a lot. I had to, I bumped my head a lot. But honestly, like I don't know. I'm a believer in everything happens for a reason. So I don't ever feel like, oh my God, that happened and I made a mistake. I'm like, oh my God, that happened. And I learned from it. Great. Like I'm always like, every time something goes wrong, I'm like, great, I will never do that again. Or great, I'm going to use that going forward. So I honestly, like, I don't have like a negative outlook on things that happen. I always say, if it happened, I'll never do it again. I don't harp on things, even money. Like one time I lost like $6,000 on something so stupid. And I was just like, all right, I won't do that again. Money comes, money goes, people come, people go. When you lose somebody really close to you, like a family member, you don't really get attached to things. You don't even get attached to bad feelings anymore. You're just like, let it go.
Yeah. So my thing is like, for you, is like, how important then is to have the mindset of positivity?
1,000% positive. But you know what? I had to build that didn't come naturally, because I actually was very negative when I started wall ball. Honestly, I was a bitch. Like when I started wall ball, I was such a biatch to the players, and I understood why a lot of them didn't like me. I was a biatch. But I actually wrote a blog about it. Hold on 1 second, because my laptop is gonna die. I'm just gonna plug in, okay?
All right.
Like 2 seconds.
All right.
All right. Where's the freaking thing? Okay, got it. Now I gotta back it up. Okay. I'm in my mother's house right now, and I had to come up to her attic to do this. So what were we discussing? Positivity.
Positivity.
Yeah. No. I was so mean when I started, because I just wanted things how I wanted it, the way I wanted it. I had a vision. You weren't gonna, ruin my business, and I was so mean. And it actually took for a bunch of players to say to me, like, oh, we don't like her. Like, I started saying things online about me, like, she's such a bitch, and she's this and she's that. And I would read it, and I would, oh my God, they really don't like me. So I finally had, one person tell me, like, you're cold, you're stoic, you're not warm. Like, people feel like they can't approach you. And I was like, really? I'm really not like that. I am. Like, I don't engage in conversation with my family. Like, I'll be the one, like, everybody be in the room talking, laughing. Like I said, I'm an introvert, and then I'll be in the corner doing nothing. That's how I am naturally. But I'm not mean. I was more just trying to run my business. But you learn over time that
That's not the way.
it's not the way. You gotta let people in sometimes. You gotta accept criticism and feedback. And one of the greatest things that happened was that a lot of people started saying, we don't like her, we don't like her. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And then they told me, and I'm like, oh. So I started this hashtag. It's funny because 50 Cent uses it. And I was like, I did that first. Positive vibes only. And every time somebody would say something, I would respond with positive vibes only. And I honestly, over like a year or two, it started to change how I think about things. So, yeah, I was negative in the beginning, and I just kept saying positive vibes only. Then I saw like some of my kids saying positive vibes only. When I say kids, I mean like the wall ball kids. They would be beefing online or something. Somebody would come up, hashtag positive vibes only. And I'll be like, oh my God, like they're doing it too now. And then I just learned to just let things go and be nicer. I just started being nicer to people. And then people asked me questions and I would answer them. Before I wouldn't tell anybody about my budget. I'd be like, it's none of your business, But then one time, I'll never forget, people used to say like, well, how much money do you make a wall ball? I'd be like, none of your business. But then this white boy at one of my tournaments, I disqualified him for being late. So that night, I remember he went home and pulled remember the 501c3 is a tax tax exempt. So my budget is public. My taxes every year are public. Anybody could go online to any 501c3 and pull what's called their 990, and you can see how much money they make, what they spend it on, their budget, everything. So this white boy went online and he pulled my budget and he put it on Facebook, and he was like, she makes $100,000 a year on wall ball and she spends this much on her phone and this much on, and can you believe that? And then I had a bunch of people saying, oh my God, you make that much money? And then that's when people were like, you're only giving away, $500 a tournament, but you make 100,000. I had to explain. And then I was just like, oh my God. Okay. Look, this is how it works. I have expenses, my insurance policy is like $5,000,
Nobody thinks about that. And
nobody. Insurance and storage and marketing and, then you have to have general liability. You have to have workers' comp. You have to have, now they make you have like a maternity policy. So much money goes out the window for just insurance, taxes, right? Even though it's tax exempt, I have to pay taxes on what I earn. So it's not what it is that you see. Then there's phone bills, there's Wi-Fi, there's equipment, there's laptops, computers, there's IT guys, there's, web, there's web maintenance. There's, people don't understand the expenses that come along with, business. So I wasn't pocketing $100,000. I was making $100,000, but they didn't understand the expenses, and I started getting criticized. So, but I was fine with it, because when it happened, I was like, all right, y'all want to talk money? Let's talk money. So I got online and I was live there, and I was like, ask me anything. I actually put up a post and I said, here's your chance. Ask me anything you want. And somebody came out and said,
it's the Instagram Live. This was the Instagram Live?
Yeah, it was on Facebook. Because it was like before I was really on IG. It was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then somebody said, and then I was like, I had enough. There's so many rumors. I said, ask me anything. And then people started asking me questions like, did you really make this much? And, how much did it cost to do Red Bull? And how much does Red Bull pay you? And I answered everything, and I felt good about it. And I was like, and look, I'm telling you this because you're capable of doing the same exact thing. I'm not any different than anybody else. I put my time in, and anybody can make this type of money doing handball. You just got to be focused, and I'm happy to help anybody, so it actually made me feel good to put it out there and say, this is what I make.
That's awesome.
It's not a secret. Yeah, it's not a secret. I don't care anymore. I want people to know, because I want people to know that it's possible for them to do it. I came from Stapleton. I didn't graduate college. I went all the way to my senior year, and then I was just like, I made so much money. I was like, keep spending money on classes. What am I going to do with this degree? My attorney was pissed off at me. He was like, just get it. And I was like, I hate math. Like, I don't even want to stress myself out a year doing 2 math classes. I was just like, and that's a little bit of a regret. I wish I would have finished, but I have 2 schools and I never finished college. So, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm any different than anybody else. My father's a teacher. My mother worked for the airlines. I didn't have a leg up, nothing like that. I just grinded, and I figured it out. So anybody could do it.
So what's the future for Jasmine Ray?
And it's funny, I was talking to my assistant about that today. I told her I'm not going to be satisfied until I have like 10 daycare centers now in Brooklyn. Because now that I'm in it, I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop now. I'm going to keep, trying to buy buildings in Brooklyn. Like that's where I'm at right now. And wall ball, I've always wanted to get to a place in wall ball where I didn't have to fundraise anymore, but that I could fund wall ball 100% by myself. Because when you have foundations, they have expectations on what you do with the money. And what I've always wanted to do with the money is every year take like an airplane full of kids, take them to Italy to compete in a tournament. That's always been like a dream of mine. So, that's where I want to be at with wall ball. Is every year we take kids from the Bronx and from Brooklyn to go to Italy, to go to Argentina, and to play in professional tournaments. I want a stadium over here. There's a building I'm trying to buy right now in Canarsie. I bid on it already, but I don't know. I don't know what I mean. Then you never know, because then again, I didn't think I was gonna get that other. My second building's in Bushwick. I didn't think I was gonna get it, and I got it. So I'm trying to get this building in Canarsie, and I find out I think in December if I got it or not. But that's going to be for wall ball. So I want an indoor facility. I want to host professional handball tournaments, and I want to make it like ESPN. I want to have sponsors. I want to have professional tournaments with halftime shows, lights, seating. I already have it all drawn out, like exactly how I see it. So, I want to fly kids overseas. I want to fly disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged kids overseas. I want to have a stadium for wall ball. I want to open now like 8 more daycare centers in Brooklyn. And then with the Culture Pivot, I want to help people start their own business, and even if I could invest in people's businesses, I'd be willing to do that. But I want to see that people are doing, or following the same footsteps, and I need for people to stop thinking it's impossible, because it's really not. I worked hard, but like, I swear I'm not like, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't finish school. I'm a horrible test taker. Like, it's not.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to be focused. I didn't spend a lot of time, because I'm an introvert, I guess. Like, I didn't spend a lot of time partying, drinking. A lot of people I grew up with, they threw a lot of time away chilling and, going to the club. And I didn't do any of that stuff. I just was always like, I was always kind of like focused on like, I loved working. I love to work and I love to get better. It didn't matter. Like, I used to work at Johnny Rockets, as a waitress. But I always did it to the best of my ability. I was always the best dancer. I would always get on the counter and make people laugh. And anything I did, I always try to be the best at it. Even in karate, like, I was the best female in my whole school. Like, I would fight men. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that's always been my approach to things. So, for the Culture Pivot, it's really about, mentorship and helping people to get healthy mentally, physically, psychologically. That's where I want to be at right now with the Culture Pivot, is help to people do what I did.
All right, so last thing, how do people sign up to Culture Pivot? Where do they go? Instagram? How do they follow you, DM you, message you, anything?
Facebook and IG, my handle's the same. It's Jasmine_Staten Island. I don't always respond to inboxes. So that's tough. I don't know. You can follow me on IG and Facebook, on those platforms. If you want mentorship or something like that, it's theculturepivot.com. Right now the subscription button is not live, but it will be.
October 12th.
October 12th is going to be live. But the template that I was just talking about how to write your first business plan, that's up. So that's just nothing but your email. You can put in your email address and you'll get the template and the 8-page instructional guide on how to do it. So that's up. I'm going to have a webinar up. I already shot it. It's already edited, and that's going to be up probably next week. So there'll be a webinar up about the course and about what we're going to talk about. And then I give you some tips about starting your business. And then the webinar, the course is going to be live October 12th. So, you can reach me if you're serious and you really want to start your business. My email for the Culture Pivot is jasmine@theculturepivot.com. Only if you're serious. I don't respond to emails if it's not serious. I don't respond to inboxes if it's not serious. But if you're serious, like, I'm literally there. Like, I will guide you. I will help you every step of the way if I have the time. But I usually make myself available, even if somebody wants some time with me and I'm at the daycare center working. I say, come. Last week, I was like, look, I just opened my daycare center. I'm not making money. I'm bleeding money. I really need your help. And I said, come to my center. And I sat with him for 3 hours. So I was working. I was at my desk, but then he was sitting right there and I was telling him what I do, how I do it. He's like, oh my God, he's in Staten Island. He was like, oh my God, you don't even know what you just did for me and my family and blah, blah, blah. And I'm so grateful. If you're serious, like, I'll make time for anybody, even if it means come to my daycare center and sit right beside me while I work, I'll give you tips and we'll talk about what you do.
Jasmine, I appreciate you. Like I said, I watch you from afar. I applaud you.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm rooting for you, and thanks for giving me this hour.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity. I love to speak about, wall ball. Wall ball's my baby. I love to speak about the Culture Pivot. That's like my new passion. And I love the daycare center. So thank you for the platform and for the opportunity.
All right. We'll talk. We'll definitely talk, though. Eventually, we'll make some magic happen down the road.
All right, sounds good. You take care. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
All right, bye.